Hi folks, Stein North here. Well, here I am in the backyard. um, this video is about a new video series I'm going to try to do. Um, Please excuse the traffic sounds. There's a lot of traffic today for some reason. And this new video series, the reason I'm doing it is I got a comment from one of my viewers, a very involved comment. They asked me some questions about, basically about survivability in the winter in my region, in this area, in central to northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, this region specifically, because that's the region they're in. And what their question really was about was what wild edibles are there and available in the winter to survive and make it through the winter. Or is it the type of thing where a person really needs to prep in the summer to be prepared and have the food to take with them in the winter when they're out in the outdoors? Well, I explained to my viewer that it's a very, very involved topic. There's a lot to that topic. So this video series, I'm going to title this video series Live or Die Off the Land. Okay, why did I pick that title? Well, in my years, I won't go into how many, I have dabbled in and experimented and at times jumped waist deep into the live off the land topic. And still today, I learn something new every time I turn around. I learn something more efficient. I learn something that I never knew. I learn about edible items that I was not aware of. But what it always comes back to is, what does it take to live off the land versus not succeeding and dying off the land? One thing we used to say when I took my family out west and we were in the Western Rockies, after we had been there a couple of years and done a couple of pretty extreme winters, and we saw how scarce food items were in the winter, we coined a phrase to people that moved into the area that weren't used to the area, and they'd say, "Oh boy, you could live off the land out here. Look at it, you could eat almost everything." We would always tell them, "Yeah, it's real pretty, all right, but you can't eat the scenery. You can take a lot of pretty photos, but you can't eat the scenery. For about 5 months of the year, you can't eat the scenery." People say, "Well, you should always be able to find game." Well, should and whether you will or not are two totally different things. I fault media books, movies, some survival, so-called survival experts. Bushcrafters don't tend to go there. They're more realistic. But I fault a lot of people for dramatizing the outdoors. And what I mean by that is a good example is all of these films that have to do with glorifying the lifestyles of Native Americans before the invasion of the white population from Europe. They glorify that and show it as such a wonderful thing. Everything's always so abundant and everything goes good. Everything's always good. You know, they had warfare and battles between tribes and things, but oh, they always ate good. They always depict it as they eat well. When the fact of the matter is those Native Americans, they worked very hard from early spring till late fall to make sure they had provisions to make it all the way through the winter, because they knew, oh, isn't that nice? Sorry about that noise. But they knew they could not survive a winter on what was going to be available naturally. If they did not preserve and store foodstuffs to make it through the winter, they starved to death. And many did. Many did. Also, our first explorers that came into this country, that came into North America, they had over a 60% mortality rate. Now, that mortality rate was based on all the things that they may die from. Disease, invasions from other peoples, people died from confrontations, accidents, and starvation. Oh, and natural causes, of course, and starvation. The thing is out of the mortality rate, the majority of deaths of the new pioneers were caused by malnutrition and starvation. So, all of these nice movies of how people lived in the old days, and they always seem to eat good. They're sitting around the fire with a great big old chunk of venison over the fire, and that's all in the movies, folks. And if folks like me and other outdoors people tell you that, oh, you need to learn all of the wild plant life out there, what's edible, because you can go out there and survive on all the plant life that's out there. That is a misnomer. That is not totally true. It depends on where you live. It depends on the type of plant life in your region. It also depends on your climate. Now here in central and northern Wisconsin, we have long winters. And there are a few, very few things you can utilize for foodstuffs in the winter. However, if you have not gathered, now we're talking about vegetation, if you had not gathered up enough to get you through the winter, you will not make it through the winter trying to eat plant life, being a vegetarian in the outdoors. solely a vegetarian here. Now, maybe if you lived in the tropics, it's different because the growing season is year-round, 365 days a year. Here, you've got 5 to 6 months. Nothing's growing. You will probably, well, no, you will. You will starve to death if you believe you're going to stay strictly vegetarian. You cannot do it. I know that might anger some people, but I'm not going to kid anybody. It's a fact. You cannot be 100% vegetarian here 365 days a year. You will not have the nutrition necessary to survive. It will not happen. But that's just one of the areas I'm going to be discussing in this series. It's live or die off the land. And we're going to get into the foodstuffs that are here, both vegetation and wild game, animal-based foods. We're going to get into the caloric values, the fat values, the protein values of all those different food types. We're going to talk about preparation of foods, the storing of foods in a wilderness situation. Now, we're not talking about in your kitchen. We're talking about in the outdoors, because that's what his question was. How am I going to survive out there? What am I going to eat? And that's what I wanted to address. I'm going to cover these topics through this series, and I don't know how many videos it'll be. Some of the topics will be food specific. Some of the topics will be state of mind. It'll be where your head's at in this whole thing. How do you manage things? Some of the topics will be survival related. Food in a survival situation, or sustainable food in a long-term situation. So there's going to be a lot going on in this new video series I'm doing, and I'll have a separate playlist for it so that if you want to go back and watch all the videos, or if you haven't seen any of them, you can jump to the playlist and you can see all that I make. So look forward to it. I'll be starting a new playlist, and it'll be under that new title, and we'll get some videos going on that topic and see where it goes. And hopefully I won't anger a lot of people out there. I know there's people that are vegetarians for good reason. Their reasoning is sound for them, and that's their choice. But there are some hard facts that go with that. There's some real hard facts that go with that if you're going to try to survive in the outdoors long term. And we'll be addressing that. But it also plays to strictly meat eaters, people that think, well, I can just go out there and eat meat. That's all I ever have to do is eat meat and I'll survive just fine. Well, there's issues that go with that also, and I'll be touching on those. I'll be going down that road. So there'll be some meat eaters out there that get mad at me too. I'm hoping not to make anybody mad, that everybody will have an open mind and say, this is information, and I can take it and use it, or I can take it and get rid of it. So, just trying to help some folks out. This is Sty North saying, thanks for tagging along, and I hope you enjoy this new series. And until we get rolling and get the first video up and running, I hope to see you then. Okay? This is Sty saying, you all have a nice day. Bye-bye.